Here we are, the final part. It's been a long ride and a little sad to finally be done with this lackluster game. Oh, and also, out of these 10 last characters, 6 of them have the last name of Parr. Huh. Anyway, this is the Golden Age Elastigirl, so, I mean, technically this specific Elastigirl didn't have Parr as a last name yet, but she's still the exact same as all of the other Elastigirl variants. I like her Golden Age suit though, and the hairdo as well. Continuing on with covering one ability per variant of Elastigirl, the special ability of this segment is Sharpshoot. It's a little weird for Elastigirl, especially since she's the only character where the thing being sharpshooted is returned back to the user. Elastigirl targets and launches her own elastic arm. Again, it's the strangest form of sharpshoot of all the characters on the list, but at least a title like that goes to one of the main characters, right? Here's the last of the Elastigirls, and of course, as it should come as no surprise, the classic red and black Incredible Suit variant is the best variant. I don't know what it is, but this color scheme, design, just never gets old to me. Anyway, the last 5 abilities Elastigirl has is another trademark thing of hers, and it's also the second ability of hers that is exclusive. That ability, my friends, is Transform. There are a multitude of ways Elastigirl can transform in this game. For starters, she can transform into a weird bouncing ball thing. I don't even think it serves a purpose anywhere, and honestly, it's a nuisance more than anything because I don't know how many times I accidentally transformed into a bouncy ball. Probably the most interesting thing she can transform into is a boat that people can ride on. Better yet, as seen in the first Incredibles movie, Dash can push the Elastigirl boat to make it go faster. So, as a recap, Elastigirl's 5 abilities are Agility, Elastic, Grapple, Sharpshoot, and Transform. So yeah, Elastigirl is definitely a useful character in the game, as she should be. I mean, she's one of the main characters and she made it into the top 10, so she must be a good character. Yeah, the next 4 segments will be covering the final member of the Incredibles family that we haven't yet seen, Jack-Jack. This is his onesie variant, and in my opinion, the most boring. Originally, Jack-Jack and his variants were at the top of the list for a very simple reason. Jack-Jack has 7 whole abilities, and that's the most abilities any single character has in the game. However, I decided to bump the Jack-Jacks down because of their speed. Like, yeah, Jack-Jack can do a lot, but he waddles like a baby. And that's because he is a baby. Jack-Jack has a little something special about him though. If you hold down the button you push to switch characters, 4 tabs show up. The bottom one goes to the character grid, but the other 3 shows the different forms of Jack-Jack, of which he has 3, one being his regular baby form. We'll get to them in the coming segments, but you know, we gotta save some you know, abilities for the other variants of this baby. Right? But you know what? I'm feeling generous. I'll cover the first of 7 abilities that Jack-Jack possesses, which is Crawl Hatch. He's a tiny baby. Of course he can fit in a little crevice. I mean, he did it for 9 months, right? The second of 4 Jack-Jack variants is one where he's practically naked. Ugh, that can't be great for monetization. Anyway, as is expected, Jack-Jack being in a diaper and only a diaper does not change the fact that he's the same as all other variants of the Jackster. Or Jack-Jackster, sorry. Or Jackster? For this segment, we'll be covering 2 more abilities that he has. This time it has to do with one of his forms, his fiery form, that is. That's right, Jack-Jack can flame on and be a tiny massive fire baby. While in baby torch form, he has 2 abilities at his disposal. First, his fire body allows him to have the fire ability. Who knew? He can walk through flames, set off campfires, and that's pretty much all you can do with the fire ability. Secondly, he has the laser ability. You should all be familiar with this by now. He can melt down golden Lego pieces. So yeah, his diaper variant may have him close to naked, but it's still better than that ugly onesie. Here's the last character in the Vacation DLC pack that we haven't seen yet in the list, and of course it's Jack-Jack. Even though this Vacation variant just looks like another boring onesie, I paid extra for this guy so he gets a natural bump in the rankings of the Mega Babies. As for this segment though, we're going to cover 2 more abilities, both of which are available in his regular baby form. The first is Teleport, you know, the ability modeled after Void. Jack Jack can interact with those blue and green walls as well. In fact, you first use the teleport ability as Jack Jack in the Revelations level. I don't know why, but I'd expect to use it with Void first since the ability was designed after her. Anyway, the next ability Jack Jack has that I'll cover in this segment is the Levitate ability. Once again, the Levitate ability in LEGO Incredibles is just like how the Force works in LEGO Star Wars games. But for Jack Jack, the Levitate ability is used for a lot more than just moving things. Jack Jack floats himself above water with that Levitate ability. He can do parkour with it, and he can climb ladders. While it's technically not the Levitate ability, the fact that it's the justification for Jack Jack being able to do so much more makes it, I guess, interesting. We're finally in the final 5 characters of the list. This is the last time we'll see the classic red and black Incredible suit, and I'm sad to see it go. Anyway, there are 2 more abilities Jack Jack has that we haven't covered yet. First, let's get an easy one out of the way. Multiply. This does exactly what you'd expect, which is create more Jack Jacks. I don't think there's any practical reason for this ability. I think it's just here because it happened in the movie. And that you play as Jack Jack and a Jack Jack clone in the Revelations level where you fight the raccoon. Actually, you might be able to fight more efficiently with more Jack Jacks, but what kind of criminal would try to take on multiple babies? Anyway, the final ability Jack Jack has is available through his 3rd form, the Monster Jack Jack. You know, the purple cretin he can turn into? Well, that's what this guy is. While in monster mode, Jack Jack's final ability is Bulldoze, so he can tear down cracked walls and stuff. So that's that. Just to recap, Jack Jack's 7 abilities are Crawl Hatch, Laser, Levitate, Multiply, Teleport, Fire, and Bulldoze. Again, he has the most abilities out of any character in the game, but his stupid baby speed is holding him back from being number 1. This is the final member of the Incredibles in this list, so let's move on to the superior non-Parr characters left in the list.
Hey, quick editor's note. I know I should have said above Parr characters. It would have been a good pun, but, you know, the moment's lost.
I think this dude was a little indulgent on the name he gave himself, but he is the certified 4th best character in the game, so I guess it isn't entirely unwarranted. Universal Man has 5 abilities, all of which are pretty useful. Well, most. The least useful one of the bunch is Sharpshoot, which is something we've all come to love, but beyond that, his abilities are pretty good. Well, he's got invisibility, and he's the only character besides Violet who has invisibility. And guess what? Even if he did want to be seen by his enemies, he has immunity as well. They can't even damage him if he allowed them to get a hit. Moving on, he has Bulldoze as well, so he can take down cracked walls and knock over enemies. And finally, he flies. You know, he pretty much hits all the bases for a good character. Universal Man was the first super targeted for Operation Chrono, so I guess Syndrome thought to get the universal guy out of the way. Here's one of the coolest looking supers in the game. It also is one of the supers that they had to create an entire design for. In the Operation Chronos database, the picture that was shown was the same as that of Universal Man's. I don't know what the reason for it is, but the look they made for him is ugly in the best way possible. Tradewind's whole thing is elemental control, and they really did a good job with giving him abilities to represent as many elements as possible. First off, he has Sharpshoot with wind balls. Second, with the air element, he can fly, and with the fire element, he has the fire ability so he can walk through fires. But also screw those fires because he can put them out with the element of water, which is the extinguish ability. Finally, he can zip through the water with the dive. So yeah, he's a master of the elements. I guess that means Tradewind is the avatar? Well, he doesn't have any abilities pertaining to the element of earth, so he should get that squared away. Where's Toph when you need her? Syndrome, one of the undisputed best superhero film villains ever. I've never met a person who didn't enjoy Syndrome in the first Incredibles movie. While he did die in the film, obviously they can't do that in the LEGO game. Instead, Syndrome escaped and ended up being the final Crime Wave boss in the game. Jason Lee, the original voice actor for Syndrome, also came on to do the extra voice lines for the character, and he's one of the only cast members of either Incredibles films to do that. I think the only other cast member that did lines for this game specifically was the kid who played Dash in Incredibles 2, Huck Milner. Don't quote me on that, but all other characters besides Syndrome and Dash had their extra lines recorded by impersonators. Imposters! Anyway, Syndrome has 5 abilities, which basically make him an advanced Buddy Pine, which, I mean, makes sense, because he is Buddy Pine. Like Buddy, he has Hacker and Repair. Also, Buddy Pine's Hover evolved into Syndrome's Flight ability. Syndrome has Sharpshoot, of course, and finally, he has Levitate, something that is no surprise to anyone that has seen the movie. He's frozen so many people with it, it would be dumb for them to not include it. All in all, Syndrome was treated very well in this game, and he definitely is my personal main. However, there is one character who I think is objectively better. Downburst here is the official best characters of LEGO Incredibles. He just has so many abilities that you would not expect. If Mr. Incredible's threat rating is 9.1, Downburst's threat rating is 12.7. Okay, well, actually it's 6.5 according to Operation Chronos, but there's no way in hell I believe that. Downburst's powers are centered around atomic manipulation, and honestly, I wish his outfit was more hype to match his cool powers. First, he can fly and has Sharpshoot, which doesn't really have to do with atomic manipulation, but the rest of these powers do. Next up is Levitate, where he can lift stuff by moving atoms of the object around or something like that. And he has the Repair ability for some reason. Maybe he can rearrange machine parts, but he'd have to have some knowledge of machinery to do it correctly. Next, he has Teleport, which makes sense because he can rearrange his own atomic structure to pass through objects. And finally, Downburst has an exclusive ability, even though it's just a wimpier version of immunity, called Regenerate. As the name implies, he's able to regain health after taking damage. Immunity is better, but regaining hearts slowly over time is better than not regenerating at all. So, yeah. Downburst has 6 seemingly random abilities, and they make him a very useful character to play as. Well, that's every character ranked for LEGO Incredibles. It's been a trip, and expect the supercut very soon. As for future projects, if you might remember from my Super Mario Party update at the end, LEGO Incredibles was the LEGO game that was at the top of the list, so strike that off. But I'm adding another LEGO game at the bottom, so it's going to be Indie Game, that's a one-off, LEGO Game, which is going to be 11 parts, a game collection, which is also going to be a one-off, and then another LEGO game after that, which will probably be 3 parts. So yeah, that's what, 11 plus 1 plus 1 plus 3. That's 16 videos that I have planned. You know, when I get to those is another story. But until the next one-off video for the indie game, I'll see you boys later.